Okay, hi everyone. This is Jessica. Today is day 12 of my fast. I decided to do a recording and a broadcast earlier today rather than at the end of the day because I've noticed that around 9 o'clock, sorry for the snarling sound in the background, just babysitting some dog sitting. Um, so, anyway, I just thought I would do one of these earlier so that um, I've noticed around 9 o'clock, I tend to get to like just wanting to rest and stuff. So my energy level seems to dip down towards the evening, which for most people wouldn't be a problem, and it's not a problem for me. But it's just something to be aware of. So that being said, um, the other thing that I wanted to mention today is that one of the reasons that I've now discovered that my mood has been a little bit up and down is that I just got my period. Now, sorry to any guys that are watching this, but it's actually a really good indicator of being well for women, especially when they're going without food to still get their period. So that's actually a really good sign. Um, it's not a bad thing, although it's kind of annoying to deal with. I'm doing a 30-day fast, so it was kind of inevitable. And I would like to mention also that I have had my period every time I've done a long fast. So it hasn't interfered with that for anybody who's concerned about those types of hormonal fluctuations. It seems to be that, with the hormonal supplement that I take and also just generally my electrolytes and stuff like that, it seems to be okay. And obviously, I am still overweight, so my body's got lots of calories to draw from. So I'm not, although I'm eating a calorie deficit, my muscles and everything in my body is technically not at a calorie deficit. So that's important to explain. My metabolism still has the calories that it needs, but it's taking those calories from fat stores instead of from my stomach. So your body's perfectly able to do that. And in fact, that's the whole God-given purpose behind fat. It's not just to make us less attractive or to be uncomfortable or any of those other things that happen, but that's the whole reason. So yeah, I'm feeling good. My cold is pretty much gone. I've blowing my nose occasionally, but other than that, I seem to be pretty good. So day 12, feeling good still. I was saying to my brother-in-law who does marathon running that it's kind of like when you're fasting a long fast like this and you're on day 12, it's kind of the equivalent of you're 10 miles into a marathon. You've got a lot of ground behind you, but you've got more than half of the ground ahead of you. You have to mentally stay strong. So one of the things I do at this point is I keep telling myself that I've still got a long way to go. Because if I imagine crossing the finish line too early, then it just makes mentally, emotionally, the rest of the time really difficult. So it's important to me to still say, because it's true also, it's a long way off. I've got a long way to go yet. And so you have to sort of practice that, reinforce that. And for me, that really helps me. I've got a long way to go yet. And I'm good. I'm okay. So all of that, being said, on today's report, I just wanted to, in this video, do 8 benefits of fasting. I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, but I'm going to cover 8 benefits of fasting that I have noticed, that I've discovered, researched, read about, and would encourage you all to do your own research. I'm not a medical doctor or trained medical professional, but I have done a lot of research, and I've done now 5 of these prolonged water fasts, so I have some personal experience as well, but would just like to highlight those for you and why I think they're beneficial. Now, obviously, there's negatives. I'll do another video about negatives, but I want to cover the benefits. Okay, so the 8 benefits of fasting in no particular order. So the first one is ketosis. Okay, so I'm sure many of you have heard of the keto diet. The name is taken from the word ketosis, and ketosis is what happens when your body is converting fat to fuel instead of burning glucose for fuel, which is everybody's default. Okay, so your metabolism has a default which is to burn glucose for fuel through the sugars and starches that we eat. And its secondary process is to burn fats for fuel. So that secondary process is called ketosis. And in that process, when it burns the fat, your muscles and every other part of your body, apart from your brain, can burn fat for fuel really successfully. Your muscles, they're all good using fat as a fuel source. However, your brain actually still needs sugar to run. So what your body does, and again, this burns a lot of calories to do. What your body does is it changes chemically. I don't actually know the science behind it, but it changes fat and actually produces a sugar molecule that your brain uses. And your brain takes a lot of calories. It's like a supercomputer. So the ketones, which are produced by your body, are used in your brain. Now, the thing that's cool about ketones is when your brain is running on that rather than just ordinary glucose, what you'll experience is your visual acuity will increase. Sometimes your hearing will increase. All your senses will get heightened. You will have a sharper mental focus because your brain runs really, really well on ketones. So that's something that has been really well researched. You can do all your research about that online. There's a lot of information about that. And so ketosis is really amazing, both for the energy that comes from it, because there's a lot of energy stored in your fat, and also for this mental awareness. Now, the other aspect of it is obviously, if your body is burning fat for fuel instead of carbohydrates, then that also means that you're losing body fat. Now, it's possible to be in ketosis and not be losing weight if you're eating as many calories in fat a day that you're burning in ketosis, then obviously you're not technically losing weight. But in my case, with fasting, I'm ingesting 0 calories of fat, and my body is then burning 2,000 calories of fat every day while in ketosis, but it's body fat. So that's kind of a cool thing. It's a really fast way to lose weight, which is why it's how I know I'm losing approximately 1 pound of body fat every day, because that's almost how much a pound of fat weighs. So that's really great. So the other part about fasting, and anybody who does any research about fasting will discover autophagy. That's the second thing. So I spelled it wrong in a previous video, but it's Autophagy, I think. And this is when I think it's a Greek term originally. No, Latin term. I don't know. But anyway, the meaning is basically translated self-eating, okay, which sounds awful. But basically, your body has made all kinds of proteins. Every cell in your body has got this setting switched to divide and replicate, grow, divide, and replicate, grow, divide, and replicate. And this is how your body replaces damaged cells and all of that. Even after we're adults and we're no longer physically getting bigger, growing more cells is a part of what every cell has to do. So it's got these parts of the cell that are making proteins and for all the things that the body needs to do. When you're fasting, that switch of divide and replicate and grow more gets switched off, and your body turns instead to a cleaning process. So it would be the equivalent of, you imagine you're cooking in the kitchen, and you're cooking constantly in the kitchen, and you never stop cooking. You just keep making more food. If you never stop to clean up the kitchen, at some point, it's going to get hard to move in the kitchen. It's going to get hard to do anything, right? And so that is the equivalent of what happens in our bodies at a cellular level too. So we have in our cells often these junk proteins where our body's made a protein, but it did something wrong in the strand. And so it's unusable. So it just pushes it to the side and tries again. But that pushing it to the side, every time it does that, it builds up, right? And so some people think that's actually one of the things that causes inflammation. And I do know that autophagy reduces inflammation. I don't know if it's exactly because of that specific thing with the proteins or if it's another aspect of it. But removing the junk proteins has an incredible disease limiting, prevention, and even in some cases reversal effect. It has an anti-aging effect on all of our cells. And it's just a really cool sort of reset, tidy everything up again. And then, okay, everything starts working better. So autophagy is this really cool thing. It happens after you've stopped eating sugars, um, like protein is also converted to sugar often. So if you have a lot of protein, then your body's still burning carbohydrates. I know that sounds weird, but your body can more easily switch proteins to carbohydrates than it can switch fat to carbohydrates. So it takes the shortcut if it can. But anyway, so so getting rid of those junk proteins, disease resistance, and even reversal. Certain types of cancers have been shown now in certain studies to actually decrease with a period of fasting. Certain mental conditions have been shown. It just do your research. It's really amazing. Digestive stuff obviously is a key, because if people have ulcers, things like that, having a period without eating gives those cells in particular time to heal and restore, for the linings to come back, all of that. And so fasting has actually a lot of therapeutic applications now that they're just discovering. Okay. So autophagy is the reason for that. So do some research on autophagy yourself. It is absolutely amazing. It happens after about 36 hours of not eating, depending on the person, depending on how much sugar you eat in your regular day. But so and then as soon as you eat, that will stop. Okay. So autophagy. The other thing, so we'll call this number 4, autophagy was number 3, is, and people are surprised by this often. So one of the myths about fasting is people say your body just eats your muscle. And that's actually not true. So fasting has been shown to, in many cases, increase muscle mass, which seems counterintuitive because it does go through this protein eating phase, but it's these junk extra proteins and, extra bits of skin, scar tissue, things like that it will cannibalize. And so the other reason why you don't end up losing muscle mass is because when you're fasting, and this is incredible, your body releases a huge amount more of the human growth hormone, which has been shown to reverse aging, increase muscle mass, things like that. So human growth hormone, it doesn't mean that you get bulky, but what it does mean is that it prevents the autophagy from consuming your lean muscle mass. So for those people who are afraid that fasting will just eat their muscle, do some research about that, because human growth hormone is the thing that actually builds muscle. And so many people report after a fast, or even intermittent fasting, if you are exercising in the times when you're not eating, your human growth hormone is higher, and so your muscle building goes way faster. So it's actually really effective to help build muscle mass. The next one. So where are we at? 1, 2, 3. So autophagy was number 2. Ketosis, autophagy, increased human growth hormone. That's number 3. The fourth one is your body cravings are reset. So if you're craving a lot of salty food, if you're craving a lot of chocolate, if you're craving chips or fries or junk food, if you can't stop yourself eating those things, and you find that if you don't eat it, you get a really strong craving, it's an indicator that you would probably benefit from taking a fast of some description, because those cravings get totally reset with a fast. Now, does that mean that if you start eating that stuff again, that those cravings can't be recreated? Yeah, of course they can. But you're not starting from, I must have chips. And in fact, when you start eating after a fast, you need to be very careful and very deliberate about what you start eating. And I will cover that in a later video. So it's not safe to just eat sugar and eat chocolate when you finish a fast. Absolutely not. You can't do it. It's very dangerous to do. You could seriously hurt yourself if you do. So, but your cravings are reset, so you don't have the same desire to do it anyway. Okay. The next one. I should have numbered these on my paper. So this is number 5. Let's put a 5 there, so stop counting. Okay, so I kind of covered this a little bit in the autophagy one, but it's a detox for all of your cells, particularly your fat stores. Now, one of the things that will happen, as I've read, is that the fat, particularly that's stored around your internal organs, which is the most dangerous body fat, around your liver that can cause cirrhosis and fatty liver disease, and around your heart that can give you issues with, heart problems and so on. That is the fat that your body goes for first, which is amazing. So even though you might not necessarily feel as though you've dropped a huge amount of inches when you're fasting, your body will go for that internal organ fat first, which is so good. So the detox aspect of it is, and a lot of people don't realize that, but your fat on your body is sort of the dumping ground where your body puts toxins that you're exposed to every day. So toxins are put in your fat, like just to get it out of the way. If your body doesn't get rid of it, it just can store it in body fat, and then it's sort of locked in. So when you start shedding that fat, when you start consuming that fat, those toxins get re-released, and then your body gets rid of them completely. Okay, so um, that's also obviously a very positive thing, and prevents all kinds of nasty stuff that can happen when you've got an excessive buildup of toxins in your body. Okay, number 6, fasting, not unlike running a marathon, will give you an incredible sense of accomplishment and this feeling of having power over food. So for somebody who, in my case, have been overweight pretty much my whole adult life, um, finally, I have found something that makes me feel as though I have power over that. Because even if it means that, once a year I do a fast, I lose 20 pounds or 30 pounds or whatever, it means that I have the ability to do that. I'm not powerless in the situation. And so it's an incredible sense of power over food. And it also helps me later on to know, actually, I don't really need to eat that, right? And I can skip a meal. So I normally, when I'm not fasting, I don't eat breakfast, just as a matter of course. And I was really shocked when I discovered that whole breakfast is the most important meal of the day thing that we just believe as a culture. And we tell ourselves, we tell each other, actually started from the breakfast cereal companies in the 1950s. It was an advertising campaign. It's not based on science. It's based on companies wanting to sell their product. I was shocked to learn that. Research that as well. I mean, that's just amazing. So, sense of accomplishment. And number 7, I've mentioned this already, fasting euphoria. The feeling that you get when you're fasting, I don't know if it's some combination of autophagy and ketosis or what's actually going on, but sorry, but it is an incredible feeling. You just get, your eyesight gets sharper, your mental acuity, um, often really happy as well. And yeah, fasting euphoria is really, really a fun aspect to it. And I consider it a major perk, because you're not getting to enjoy food in the same way, but you do feel really, really good, so feeling really, really good really helps the process. And I think if fasting was one of those things that felt like a punishment for 30 days, I wouldn't be able to do it. But the fact that there's this mechanism that's built in that feels really amazing is so cool. Would like to add at this point that pretty much every culture prior to, let's say, 70 years ago had fasting as part of their norm. Every religion has fasting as part of their norm. Every culture previously has fasting. Feast and famine, fasting for certain things is part of the norm. And so in our culture, we think that it's the craziest thing ever for somebody to be fasting food. But actually, if you look with the wider lens of history, it is totally normal. And there are health benefits to doing it, which I've covered already, and it's something to think about. Now, my final point here, which goes along with this, is an increased spiritual awareness or acuity. It's almost like the veil between you and God is thinner. And the veil, I believe, is on our end. It's not because God doesn't want to talk to us, but that fasting just somehow recalibrates us And as we include Jesus in our meditation, as we include Jesus in the things that that we're praying about and so on, what you will start to discover is experiences with him. And he's very happy to reveal himself to you. And you'll be able to sense it more clearly. You've got less baggage, less issues in the way when you're fasting. So, um, yeah, spiritual awareness, that's the final one. And that's a big one. Most people fast for that reason alone. Most people that fast still from religions, whether it's Islam or Hinduism or Sikhism or Judaism, or some Christians do, not many Christians do, but regardless, when they fast, it's because they're believing God for something and they're trusting God for something, they're giving something to God. So the spiritual aspect of it is the bigger part. Now, I have found, as I include Jesus in these things, it makes it the most productive. So I would like to encourage you, if you're fasting, even if you don't necessarily believe in that stuff, give it a try, because you might be surprised what you experience. You might be surprised. Just make a little bit of time for that at the beginning of your day and maybe at the end of your day. Okay. So that's that. 8 benefits of fasting. Any questions, any comments, please leave them for me. Give this video a like. That'll really help me just to feel like there's people that are watching and interested in listening. Okay, thanks very much, everyone. See you tomorrow.